Across the region, the extremes in weather, especially like what we've seen in the past month, can have a wide-ranging impact on those growing produce. GMET Weekend's Bob Hallmark has more on how it's affecting farmers.
From the first heat of summer to torrential rains, then more intense heat, the weather can be the single biggest factor in the success or failure of produce, hay, and other crops.
In agriculture, one of our biggest challenges is weather, especially considering it's outside of our control.
There are a number of ups and downs that drastic changes in weather can have on growers.
Heavy torrential downpours or extreme winds, straight line winds, can be damaging to a lot of crops. Rainfall can also be a negative once that forage has been cut and we're trying to cure it.
And with a change back to intense heat, already plants are showing signs of withering under the sun. Though rain is good, it also has a byproduct.
Insect pest, armyworm, it tends to pop up and become very problematic when we've been dry, and then we have rainfall, very problematic and can destroy a lot of forage.
And a back and forth can cause a shock to plants.
The drought, of course, decreases agronomic production, forage production, of rainfall in heavy mass. That can lead to leaf shatter.
But there is room for optimism.
We always are looking for rainfall, especially during the summer, and we recommend following best management practices to kind of deal with the challenges that come with our weather.
For Good Morning East Texas Weekend, I'm Bob Hallmark.
The agriculture expert says only time will tell how successful the growing season this year will be, with the traditionally hottest months of the East Texas summer, of course, still ahead of us.